The gavel slammed down, echoing through the grand, oak-paneled courtroom. A hush fell over the crowd as Judge Harold Whitmore, a man with decades on the bench and an expression carved from stone, leaned forward. His voice was like gravel as he spoke. In the matter of the people versus Elon Musk, this court finds the defendant guilty of market manipulation, fraud, and abuse of corporate power. Mr. Musk, you are hereby ordered to step down as CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, and your assets within the United States are to be frozen until further review. Gasps filled the room. The world's richest man, the tech visionary who had revolutionized electric vehicles and space travel, had just been handed the most devastating ruling of his career. Elon Musk sat calmly at the defense table, his hands folded, his blue-gray eyes locked onto the judge. If he was surprised, he didn't show it. But deep inside, he knew this was coming. He had seen the signs, the sudden, unfounded accusations, the media smears, the strange backroom dealings. This wasn't just a court case. It was a coordinated attack. From the moment the lawsuit was filed by a mysterious group of so-called whistleblowers, Musk had suspected foul play. The evidence against him was flimsy at best: anonymous reports, distorted financial figures, and a so-called smoking gun email that he had never even written. His legal team had fought hard, exposing inconsistencies and conflicts of interest. But in the end, the decision had been made long before he ever set foot in the courtroom. This wasn't about justice. It was about power. The judge's gavel slammed again, snapping Musk out of his thoughts. Court is adjourned. As Judge Whitmore stood and walked toward his chambers, Musk finally allowed himself a small smirk. The ruling was corrupt, but it was also a mistake that he would expose to the world. The game was just beginning. As soon as the court adjourned, a swarm of reporters crashed forward like a tidal wave, cameras flashing, microphones thrust in every direction. The headlines were already being written. Elon Musk found guilty, tech titan falls. Musk's empire in ruins after landmark ruling. Justice served? Or a billionaire's downfall? Musk walked out of the courtroom with his signature confidence, his chin slightly raised. His lawyers surrounded him, whispering legal jargon about appeals and injunctions. But Musk barely heard them. His mind was already on his next move. As he stepped onto the courthouse steps, he turned to the cameras, finally speaking for the first time. This ruling is not just a ruling against me, it's a ruling against innovation, against progress, and against the future. But I assure you, this fight is far from over. With that, he walked straight to his Tesla Model X, ignoring the shouting reporters. The doors lifted open like the wings of a falcon, and he slid inside. The vehicle sped away, navigating the busy streets of Washington, D.C., heading toward an undisclosed location. Inside a sleek, high-tech bunker beneath a nondescript SpaceX facility, Musk met with a select group of allies. Sitting around the illuminated glass table were his most trusted confidants, Tesla and SpaceX executives, cybersecurity experts, investigative journalists, and even a few rogue government insiders. The room buzzed with anticipation. Everyone knew why they were here. Musk tapped a button on the table and a holographic projection flared to life in the center. It displayed a complex web of connections: judges, politicians, corporate lobbyists, and shadowy figures tied to legacy automakers and fossil fuel industries. The corruption ran deep. This wasn't just a bad ruling, Musk said, his voice steady but razor-sharp. This was orchestrated. And I'm going to prove it. One of his cybersecurity experts, a former NSA analyst named Jackson Carter, leaned forward. We've already found irregularities in the court's communication logs. Encrypted messages between the judge's office and unknown private servers. We're working on decrypting them now. A journalist from an independent media outlet, Sarah Whitaker, chimed in. And I've been tracing the money trail. Millions of dollars flowing into shell companies linked to the judge's offshore accounts. If we go public with this. Musk smirked. We're not just going public. We're going nuclear. Over the next 48 hours, Musk's team worked in secret, gathering irrefutable evidence. Then, without warning, the bombshell dropped. A series of leaked documents, audio recordings, and financial records hit the internet like a meteor strike. The files proved beyond any doubt that Judge Whitmore had been bribed by a coalition of legacy automakers, oil magnates, and political elites who wanted Musk out of the picture. The headlines flipped overnight. Leaked files prove Elon Musk was framed. Judge Whitmore caught in massive corruption scandal. Musk strikes back, exposes the truth. Public outrage erupted like wildfire. Social media exploded with demands for justice. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, chanting "Justice for Musk" and "Corrupt courts must fall." Under mounting pressure, the Department of Justice had no choice but to open an immediate investigation. Judge Whitmore, who had once stood so tall and confident behind his bench, was now on the defensive. As Musk watched the chaos unfold from his private control center, he allowed himself a small grin. The tide was turning. Judge Harold Whitmore sat in his lavish penthouse apartment, a glass of scotch trembling in his hand. His once unshakable confidence had vanished. Just days ago, he was the untouchable force presiding over one of the most high-profile cases in American history. Now, his name was plastered across every news outlet as the symbol of judicial corruption. The leak had been devastating. The financial records, the secret offshore accounts, the encrypted messages, all undeniable proof that the ruling against Musk had been bought and paid for by legacy automakers and fossil fuel conglomerates desperate to stop the rise of Tesla and SpaceX. His phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters, government officials, and even former allies now eager to distance themselves. But there was one call he dreaded the most. It came at midnight. Judge Whitmore, a deep voice on the other end of the line, spoke, calm but menacing. "You assured us this wouldn't happen." Whitmore swallowed hard. I didn't know Musk had a team like this. He wasn't supposed to have access to those files. You were supposed to bury him, not create a scandal," the voice continued. "Now we have senators calling for an investigation. The DOJ is breathing down our necks." "I can fix this," Whitmore stammered. "There are still ways. Your only job now," the voice cut in, "is to make sure you stay silent. Understand?" The call ended. Whitmore slumped into his chair, rubbing his forehead. He was a pawn in a much bigger game, and now, for the first time, he realized how expendable he was. While Whitmore panicked, Musk was just getting started. He knew exposing the corruption was only the first step. He had to ensure that real consequences followed. He sat in his private tech bunker, the glow of multiple screens illuminating his face. The world was on fire with the revelations, but Musk was already thinking 5 steps ahead. His team had uncovered even more ties between the judges, bribers, and powerful senators, oil industry executives, and even members of the Federal Trade Commission who had been conspiring to dismantle his businesses under false pretenses. Musk turned to Sarah Whitaker, the investigative journalist who had been instrumental in the leak. "How fast can we get this next batch of evidence to Congress?" She smirked. "With the public this riled up? By tomorrow morning, there'll be hearings scheduled." Musk nodded. "Good. Let's make sure no one sleeps tonight." As the new wave of leaks hit, the American public erupted. Social media platforms were flooded with hashtags. Hashtag justice for Musk. Hashtag corrupt courts must fall. Hashtag Elon exposed the swamp. Protests spread from Silicon Valley to Washington, D.C. The White House was forced to issue a statement promising a full and impartial review of the case. Even members of Congress who had once stayed silent now called for Judge Whitmore's resignation. By morning, Whitmore had no choice. Under pressure from both the media and political leaders, he issued a public statement stepping down from his position. But it wasn't enough. The Department of Justice announced an official criminal investigation into Whitmore and the corporate elites who had bribed him. Musk watched it all unfold with a quiet satisfaction. He hadn't just won his case, he had shattered an entire corrupt system. But he wasn't done yet. As he looked at the screen, an encrypted message popped up from an unknown sender. "You've won this battle, but the war isn't over. Watch your back." Musk smirked. "Bring it on." The morning after Judge Whitmore's resignation, the U.S. media was ablaze. Every major news network dissected the downfall of the corrupt judge, the exposed corporate conspiracy, and the power play that had nearly cost Musk his empire. But while the public celebrated Musk's victory, those in the shadows were already plotting their counterattack. Deep within a secluded estate in Virginia, a closed-door meeting was underway. Seated around an ornate mahogany table were some of the most powerful figures in American business and politics, CEOs of fossil fuel giants, legacy automaker executives, high-ranking senators, and former intelligence officials. At the head of the table sat an older man with icy blue eyes and a reputation for making problems disappear, Richard Callaway, a former defense contractor turned corporate fixer. "This Musk problem has gone too far," Callaway said, his voice like a knife through silence. "He should have been crushed in court. Instead, he's turned this into a populist crusade." An oil executive leaned forward. "Public opinion is against us. If we move now, it'll only make him stronger. We need a different approach." A senator from Texas spoke next. "There are other ways to bring him down. The SEC could reopen investigations. The DOJ could scrutinize SpaceX's government contracts. If we paint him as a national security risk." Callaway raised a hand, silencing the room. "This isn't just about lawsuits or government red tape," he said. We need to hit him where it hurts. He leaned forward, locking eyes with each person at the table. We take Tesla away from him. We take SpaceX. We strip him of everything. The room fell silent. A legacy automaker CEO scoffed. And how do you plan on doing that? Musk owns the majority shares in Tesla and has full control over SpaceX. Callaway smiled. Every empire has weak points. We just need to find his. Unaware of the storm brewing against him, Musk was already planning his next attack. In the SpaceX control center, he sat before a wall of screens displaying live feeds of global markets, social media trends, and encrypted data leaks. His team was monitoring everything. Sarah Whitaker, the journalist who had helped expose Judge Whitmore, paced the room. We need to stay on offense, Elon. The more pressure we apply, the harder it will be for them to regroup. Jackson Carter, the former NSA analyst, nodded. We still have troves of data we haven't released. If we push the right information at the right time, we can cripple their operations. Musk leaned back, fingers steepled. It's not just about exposing them anymore, he mused. It's about making sure they can never pull this kind of stunt again. He tapped the screen, bringing up a classified dossier. I want to go after the policymakers enabling this corruption. The ones in Washington who've been feeding the machine for decades. Jackson smirked. You're declaring war on the swamp? Musk grinned. Let's just say we're about to drain it. Just as Musk was preparing his next major expose, the attack came. The SEC launched a surprise investigation into Tesla alleging accounting fraud. The DOJ announced an inquiry into SpaceX's national security contracts. A sudden wave of lawsuits from anonymous investors accused Musk of financial misconduct. And then came the biggest blow. Tesla's stock plummeted 40% overnight after a coordinated media blitz questioning Musk's leadership. Musk's phone buzzed with a private message from an unknown number. You should have stayed quiet. Musk exhaled slowly. He knew this was retaliation. But he wasn't about to back down. He cracked his knuckles and smiled. All right, now we play for real? Musk stared at the encrypted message on his screen. The warning was clear. His enemies were done playing defense. They had launched a full-scale attack, weaponizing government agencies, manipulating the media, and orchestrating a financial war against him. Most people would have backed down. Most people would have accepted the loss and walked away. But Elon Musk wasn't most people. He turned to his team in the SpaceX bunker. They want war? Let's give them war. Musk's strategy had always been simple: stay ahead of the game. His team had anticipated that the establishment would retaliate. And they had prepared for it. Jackson Carter, the ex-NSA hacker, had already infiltrated private communication networks between SEC officials, DOJ prosecutors, and executives from legacy automakers. The connections were damning. There was direct proof that government regulators had coordinated their investigations with corporate leaders to attack Musk's empire. We've got smoking guns everywhere, Jackson grinned, pulling up documents, wire transfers, and secret meeting logs. If we release this now, we can blow up their entire operation. Musk nodded, but he wasn't ready to just leak the files. He wanted a spectacle. We do this live, he said. We make them answer in real time. The next night, Musk went live on X, formerly Twitter, streaming to millions. His face was calm, but his words hit like a sledgehammer. For years, we've been told that America is a land of opportunity. That innovation and hard work matter. But today, I'm here to show you the truth. He pulled up documents on the screen. These are leaked communications proving that my trial was rigged. That Judge Whitmore was paid off. That government agencies were weaponized to destroy Tesla and SpaceX, not because of any wrongdoing, but because I threatened the old system. Millions of viewers watched in shock as Musk exposed secret deals, leaked memos, and recordings of corrupt officials admitting their plans. The evidence was undeniable. And then he dropped the final bombshell. I'm not just fighting this battle for myself. I'm fighting it for every entrepreneur, every innovator, every person who dares to challenge the system. If they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. The internet exploded. Within hours, Musk's live stream had over 500 million views. The public backlash was immediate. Protests erupted in multiple cities. Congress was forced to hold emergency hearings. The DOJ and SEC were now under investigation for corruption. And just like that, the tide turned again. The pressure became too much. One by one, the power players who had conspired against Musk started to fall. Judge Whitmore was arrested for accepting bribes. Several SEC and DOJ officials resigned in disgrace. Tesla's stock rebounded as public support surged. And the corporate executives who had plotted against Musk? Exposed and sued. The establishment had tried to destroy him. Instead, they had destroyed themselves. A week later, Musk stood before a roaring crowd in Austin, Texas. He had won against the corrupt courts, against the corporate elite, against the entire system. They said I was finished. They said they could take me down. But guess what? I'm still here. The crowd erupted. Innovation will never be stopped. And corruption? Corruption will always be exposed. As the cheers echoed across the stadium, Musk looked up at the sky. SpaceX was about to launch another rocket to Mars. His vision for the future was back on track. And nothing, not the courts, not the government, not even the most powerful people in America could stop him now.